together like this. There's a God somewhere because we're able to be here together, and I'm grateful for that. I want to begin by introducing Dr. Mark Mulder, who is the Dean of the School of Business for PLU, to just give you a brief little welcome to this beautiful campus that's hosting our event with us today. We appreciate their partnership, Dr. Mulder, and then we'll be right back.
Well, I have both the honor and the challenge of following Carol in my welcome. I just want to say welcome to Pacific Lutheran University and to our campus. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm excited for your presence in this space, for the collective energy that comes together with people who care and people who have a variety of great ideas. And so I want to welcome you to our campus. As in our School of Business, we look closely at business and society, and you're doing important work. And I want to echo that with an example of some of the things that we see in society that provide some challenges. I would imagine that every person in this room has one of these devices. Am I correct? You have a chance to push some buttons, you have a chance to connect with people through chat. Some of you actually still call people, apparently, and we have a chance to gather information. What's interesting about this device is the way that we access it. When we push the power button, we have some type of a plan, right? Some of us have prepaid cell phone plans, some of us have other types of plans. And I want you to think for a moment about a prepaid cell phone plan. If you have a prepaid plan, you don't have a long-term contract. You don't have a credit check because of your prepaid plan. You simply pay, and if you made your payment, you get your service, right? And so there's no need for a credit history or a credit check because you've already paid in advance. I want to ask you, how many of you today rode in a vehicle to come to campus? Everybody, right? And I want to transition to something that we look at as an example of a challenge that we can confront in business and an issue of inequity, and that is car insurance. Right now in Washington State, there is a policy that your car insurance rates are determined not by your driving ability as much, not by your history of how many infractions or if you had none or collisions, but by your credit history. You pay in advance for your car insurance the same way that you pay in advance for some of us for it's prepaid cell phone plans, yet it's your credit history that determines the rates that you pay. So I have my colleague George here. Let's assume that George and I both had no infractions, we had no collisions, we both had the same driving record. And George, because he's awesome, has incredible credit, and I have had some challenges, right? Let's assume that I had some medical challenges, my credit history took a ding. Because of my credit history, which may have no connection to my ability to drive safely, my rates might be 2 to 2.5 times more than my friend and my colleague George. We see this as an issue of structural inequity in business. And at PLU and in the PLU School of Business, we care about identifying things like this. And I am so excited to be in a room full of people who have that same energy, thinking about equity and thinking about justice with no excuses. And so I want to thank you for the energy that you bring right now, for the ideas and the energy that you're going to be sharing today. I want to thank the speakers in advance that have given their time to bring ideas and suggestions to you as a group, and for your collective ideas and energy that are going to be present today and tomorrow. So on behalf of the School of Business and on behalf of PLU, a very, very warm welcome to campus. We're glad that you're here. We hope you have a great time in the coming days. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have to bring that mic down a lot. Somebody the other day said, "You're kind of short." I said, "The word is condensed," which means I pack a lot of power in a small package. Okay. I also want to just acknowledge Georgina, who has been such a help to making sure we were able to be here this morning, and the hospitality staff, the IT folks from PLU. They are in the middle of the busiest period of their year, and yet they made space for us, so thank you. here, and you make room for them, right? You put them up and you make them feel comfortable and welcome. So thank you, George. I just want to welcome all of you. I apologize in advance. I'm in recovery from whatever it is. It's not COVID, but whatever it is in my throat today. My name is Carol Mitchell. Again, I'm the founder of the Institute for Black Justice, and I think we have a video welcome also from Representative Kilmer. So this is how we roll, right? That we can be in this Washington, and if you look right up there, you're going to hear from the other Washington. So watch this. While they're queuing up the other Washington, I'm going to keep going. And when he's ready to speak, he'll give me a sign, right, Tia? And we're just going to keep going. Our program is really tightly scripted today. Are you giving me a sign? Yep. So let me keep going. I want to tell you that the IBJ is a 501c3 nonprofit. And our vision is true justice, as Dr. Mulder just said. No exceptions. I want to thank Drew Ebersole, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes, for helping us to come up with that very concise, very tightly scripted vision statement, because it captures everything that we're about. Our mission is to relentlessly pursue equity and justice for all. We prioritize Black African descent people, and that captures a whole lot of other folks, low socioeconomic status people of all races oftentimes get caught in that very wide net that we cast when we try to support Black and African American families. We carry out our mission with 4 programs. One of them, you've probably seen my beautiful mini-me, Anjanae Slaughter. Stand up, Anjanae. Yes, that's me when I was 25. I was a lot taller, and I had a lot more hair, but Anjanae and I, we co-host the Black Road podcast. If you have not seen it, please go to YouTube and take a look. We're going to tell you about the Chimes Family Advocacy Program today, and the ACES Leadership Development Program, which is what this day is really all about. It's our passion and our commitment to young adults. I love hanging out with young people. I have even slid down bowling alleys just to have fun with young people. That's how much it matters to us that you're here today. Are we ready for Representative Kilmer? Yeah. Okay, let's hear from the other Washington.
Hey folks, Derek Kilmer here, proud representative for Washington's 6th Congressional District, which is close to Tacoma, the Kitsap Peninsula, and the Olympic Peninsula. I'm sorry to be with you in person at PLU today, so I'm doing the next best thing, sending you a long and boring video. In all seriousness, I wish I could be with you today, so I could experience the energy in that room with so many terrific community leaders, as you work to build on the legacy that stemmed from the Mother's Day Uprising and work to update the blueprint for Black excellence. Many there in that room know the story of the Mother's Day Uprising well. As historian Barbara Johns wrote, the uprising here in our region bore the seeds of similar uprisings in northeastern cities in the 1960s. She wrote, a Black population concentrated by residential discrimination in a deteriorating inner-city neighborhood, the lack of economic opportunity and political representation, and the gulf between the promise of equal rights and the daily reality of Black life. To many, the Mother's Day Uprising was the turning point of Tacoma's civil rights struggle, eventually leading to the formation of the Tacoma Black Collective and ushering in new leadership with the community and catalyzing action in the city to focus on creating more economic opportunity and better social services. The leaders of this movement not only stood up to quell the violence at the time, they took action to create lasting change. They included Harold Moss, the then leader of the NAACP, who became Tacoma's first Black city council member, mayor, and Pierce County council member. Jim Walton, a then student leader who would become Tacoma's first black city manager. Thomas Dixon, the longtime leader of the Tacoma Urban League, and many others. These incredible leaders have lived up to the mission of the Institute for Black Justice, to relentlessly pursue equity and justice for all. And they help create a blueprint for how to continue to pursue these objectives. Over the next 2 days, this critical summit will help decide how to update that blueprint so that as a community we can advance the IBJ's mission by advocating for fairness and equity, accelerating the transformation of the justice system, and empowering social justice advocates to serve our region. And I want you to know I am a steadfast partner in that effort. But ultimately, I think we've got a lot of work to do if we want to honor the legacy of those that led the civil rights movement here and across our country, those who did the hard work of making America, as Dr. King said it, what it ought to be. Harold Mott's certainly walked that walk, fighting for civil rights, for fair housing, for creating more economic opportunity for people in every neighborhood. So how do we follow their charge? If we want to honor trailblazing leaders like Dr. King and Harold Moss, let's restore voting rights and remove the barriers to the ballot box that still exist in this country. The Voting Rights Act lost its teeth as a result of a Supreme Court decision a few years back. And that's why I am proud to have sponsored a new Voting Rights Act and proud to tell you that the House has passed that bill. We want to honor Dr. King and Harold Moss and legends like him, address pay inequities. When an African American woman gets paid 66 cents on the dollar as a white man, that's wrong. And that's why I'm sponsoring the Paycheck Fairness Act to embrace a very simple ethic: equal pay for equal work. Or how about we increase the federal minimum wage and lift 1.3 million Americans out of poverty and give nearly 20 million working women a raise? Or address inequities in our healthcare system that have been amplified by the sad reality that this virus is disproportionately affecting people of color. If we want to honor Dr. King, if we want to honor Harold Moss, if we want to honor these trailblazing leaders, we need to deal with inequity throughout our society. We need to address a criminal justice system that disproportionately impacts the African American community. We need to get the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act passed into law to ensure justice and accountability. If we want to honor Harold Moss, we cannot have two systems of justice in this nation. One system that under the last president tear-gassed protesters peacefully advocating for Black lives to make way for a presidential photo op, and another system that allowed domestic terrorists free rein over the United States Capitol, leaving more than 50 law enforcement officers injured and 5 people dead. We've got to take action to ensure that justice in our communities is won and that everyone is treated fairly under the law. We need to address inequality in our education system and recognize that a so-called achievement gap is too often a resources gap and an opportunity gap. Folks, we are not yet at that more perfect union envisioned by our founders and fought for by Dr. King and Harold Moss and Jim Walton and Thomas Dixon and so many others. We've got work to do to make Tacoma and America what it ought to be. Dr. King said we must accept finite disappointment but never lose infinite hope. This community and this summit reignites my flame of faith and optimism and my commitment to honor those words and never lose infinite hope. My friends, thank you for working to make our community what it ought to be and for never losing infinite hope. Keep at it, and we'll see you soon.
I appreciate that message from the other Washington. I also want to let you all know that we couldn't be here this morning were it not for the generosity of sponsors who made it possible for you all to gather at no charge to you. Hopefully some of you or most of you even got your parking pass, right? And if not, if you need one, we have a couple that we can share with you. Greater Tacoma Community Foundation is our title sponsor. The Alliance for Gun Responsibility, our good friend Tremaine Edwards, who you'll hear from tomorrow if you come back. The United Way of Pierce County, thank you, Jared, for making sure you and Donna always show your support. We appreciate that so very much. And there were individual donors like Arthur Watkins, like Andre Jimenez, who gave dollars, big dollars, so they could get their name up on this list. Well done. Matching Justice is a new foundation that supported our Let the Kings Talk event. And we always partner with academic partners like University of Washington Tacoma for the design challenge that we'll tell you more about a little bit later. And I want to thank University of Puget Sound, Dr. Carolyn Wise, my other condensed sister, for the work that she has helped do with the design challenge, and also Evergreen State College. I'm not sure if your logo made it, but that Dr. Michael Craw has been part of this vision as well. So give them all a round of applause. I'm going to jump to our ACES program because they're really what this event is all about today. It's a young adult leadership development cohort. Everybody that's a part of the design challenge, or if you're 18 to 35 and you're in this room, I want you to stand up right now and just wave and say, I'm an ace. I'm your ace in the hole. Stand up, stand up. Come on, come on. These are the cards that we're going to play. This is how we are going to be able to win against inequity and injustice. The solution is in this room, and it's these young adults who are engaging now in social justice activism and bringing their own fresh ideas and new ways of thinking about how we get there. They're going to update this blueprint that the beautiful Senator Rosa Franklin, that Amir Abdul-Mateen, that Jim Walton and Lyle Qasim and former Mayor Bill Barsma are about to tell you about. These young people are going to take that blueprint, that methodology, and update it. And tomorrow you're going to hear some powerful ideas about what they think social justice work should look like and how they interpret where the needs really are. So I hope you're coming back tomorrow. We'll be in Xavier Hall. We won't be here, so don't come here. Just right down the walkway in Xavier. And the young adult, the ACES, will be on display. So thank you again, Dr. Carolyn Young, UWT Global Innovation and Design Lab, Dr. Divya McMillan, and Dr. Michael Craw for everything that you've done. You'll see these young people tomorrow and get introduced to them. Real quickly, I just want to acknowledge the land that we're standing on, that it is the traditional homeland of the Puyallup tribe of Indians. I also want to pause and acknowledge my own ancestral origins, that this country is built on the labor of people of African origin who were kidnapped and enslaved, and we recognize that the continued contribution of their survivors, including from people like me and some of you, is part of what makes this country work. And we also want to acknowledge all immigrant labor, whether it's voluntary or involuntary or trafficked or forced. I don't care what label you put on it. It's a human life, and if it's breathing work and value and talent into our economy, that life has promise, that life has value to us. And we appreciate the service that comes from people who can't always find a document that makes our government happy. So thank you for that. Finally, I want to acknowledge our own paid and volunteer team at IBJ. Peggy Hurd, who made those beautiful kente cloths. All of our IBJ folks, Tia and Ryan back on the yes, back at the technical desk. The volunteers out front, Colby, Jaquez, Monique, all of you, stand and just be acknowledged real quickly. And hardworking group of people, some paid and some who are just paying it forward, and so we appreciate all of them. Now, I want to bring back my friend. Have we been friends for like 40 years? Don't even tell. Like 40 years plus. Yeah, back before the Daffodil Queen days and the Afro Queen days, right? She was the Afro Queen, I was the Daffodil Queen, and we still loved each other. But I'm going to hand off this program for the rest of the morning to my friend Wanda Thompson, who is standing in as our interim senior director of leadership and education. She's our MC for today. So I'm handing off the mic, sweetheart. Thank you, everybody.
I'm a little taller, so I don't have to adjust this too much. But I would like to say welcome and greetings to everyone, and I'm excited to see so many of you here, and I hope to see you tomorrow as well. And it's really good that you all are shining with the kente cloths, and it's really dazzling. So it makes my job a lot easier. This is our second annual Freedom Summer Symposium. And last year was the first one, obviously, and we had it virtually. And this is our first live. So we're working through this, and hopefully next year, till 3 or 4 more years and on, we will continue to have our in-person symposium. So the first thing I'd like to do is to say this is going to be a very enriching 2 days, because you're going to see a lot of talented young people, as well as some really powerful and dynamic speakers that have a legacy. They are the legacy builders that brought us to this day. So it's really exciting that you're going to see all of this, and they're homegrown. These are people that are going to help to motivate, they're going to help to educate you, they're going to inspire you, and they're going to bring awareness, I hope, and communication and social justice issues to the forefront. And it's all about intergenerational exchange and dialogue, and that's why we're here today. Anjali said she's the younger one, I'm the older one, I'm the auntie. Okay. So I'd just like to say, I'm going to start off with our first talent. And our first talent, you heard some of the music when you walked in. So I'd like to call on as they walk through, I'm just going to say a few little words. This is the Kareem Candy World Orchestra. And Kareem Candy is a native of the Pacific Northwest. He's a saxophonist, a performer, a composer, an educator, and is a versatile musician with strong roots in traditions of jazz, blues, classical, and funk, and has been performing throughout the United States over the years. And he has played with many greats. When I started reading this bio, I didn't even know this, and I've known him for many years as well. We both served as commissioners for the Arts Commission. He's played with Patti LaBelle, The Temptations. The list goes on and on. I was just awed. I said, I cannot believe that I did not know that. Yeah, you're so old, right? And so I'm really excited to introduce Kareem Candy World Orchestra, who has been to Germany and just recently returned from a world tour. And that's his goal, is to spread music exchange worldwide. And he just came back from an invitation from Beyond France, which is one of our sister city networks, and Paris, and has been invited again. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the Kareem Candy World Orchestra.
this day, I know I do a lot of teaching and playing. This is my 20th year teaching the jazz program at Tacoma School of the Arts. So I was the very first person artist in residence that they hired right after I graduated from college. They hired me to teach there, so I've been teaching ever since. And Alasia was one of my students, so I wanted to say, can you bring a student? I said, of course, I'd love to bring she was the first person to pop in my mind. She's a great singer and a great songwriter. And yeah, so yeah, you're doing great. That first song we played was an old standard entitled Blue Skies. The next song that I can play is the piece for you entitled September in the Rain. Hope you enjoy it.
There's, thank goodness we have good technical support.
Really quickly, I want to say this is totally off topic, but I have known Mark for years, and he's a bad sound and text. Big round of applause for Mark.
I want to say a special thank you for the beautiful jazz performance. You just got a little taste of it, and you can go online, Korean Candies. What is the link?
www.kkworldorchestra.org.
Very easy. And he has lots of performances every single week. So please go see him. He's excellent. So I'd like to now take us to another phase of this presentation today. And this is the part where we're going to actually have our challenge, our legacy team. And I'd like to introduce the next presenter, which is Drew Ebersol, also known as Andrew. And he is a certified Hudson Institute coach and a member of the International Coach Federation. Drew's mindfulness and resilience training and teaching has spanned over 15 years. He specializes in deep understanding of these practices and how to make them practical and impactful in everyday life and work. Drew earned his BA in liberal arts and also received postgraduate training in marriage and family counseling. Before launching Excel 180, he most recently served as Director of Patient Experience for a major healthcare system in Washington State and Executive Director for a nonprofit foundation. He is an active member of the IBJ's Amazing Brain Trust as an advisor. So please welcome Drew Ebersol.
So, good morning. Good to be here. And like Carol, I have a little bit of whatever's going on, but I'm okay. Everybody just take a deep breath together right now. Drink in where you are. What's happening right now? And realize that it was just a thought first. And the realization of that allows us all to see that the power of our minds to create is, without a doubt, the single most creative force in our known universe. Your mind has power to make anything happen. Full stop. And that's a reality that comes through positive psychology, neuroscience, epigenetics, psychoneuroimmunology. All these comport with the fact that it's real. Thoughts become things. What you're thinking matters. Now, I want to tell you that I can't imagine the challenges that are in your life. They're probably real and big and deep. And I wouldn't even try to pretend to imagine it. But what I can tell you is that what if you imagine a reality, which it is, where those challenges are not there to beat you down, they're to lift you up. And again, this is real. So positivity and creativity do not come from naivety or blind optimism. They come from understanding what you're challenged with, working with it, and shaping it into what you want. So, here's a little story real quick. I'm 49 years old at the time. I have hearing loss in my right ear. I go into my doctor. He says, "Oh, that's unusual. You should probably have an MRI." I'm like, "MRI? I'm a healthy fluorinaire guy. I don't need an MRI. I don't need to see what's going on in my brain. It's fine." He says, "Get the MRI." I get the MRI. The next day he calls me. He says, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You have a big brain tumor in the back of your skull." I was floored. What did that mean? My whole world in that second got turned upside down. And to make it more interesting, my wife and I have a son, 12 years old now. We love very deeply. And she had been married once before, and her husband was diagnosed with cancer It metastasized the tumors in his brain, and he died in the hospital. So I was facing the biggest challenge I could ever imagine. I didn't know what to do with it. Why am I telling you that? Well, not only to explain that that journey shaped who I am, but that moment I realized it is up to me what to make of that journey. Just like it's up to all of you what you want to make of your journey. Period. No one can tell you who you are except you. No one can tell you what you can do except you. No one can shape your world and your future except you. So what did I do? I grabbed that opportunity. I went to the surgery. I was blown out of the water. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't swallow. It took me months to learn to walk again. I couldn't control the right side of my body. And when I realized that it was in my ability to recover, I did. And I can walk and I can talk. I still have right side facial paralysis, but I'm glad for it. You know why? Because it reminds me what compassion is. It reminds me that we all go through suffering and challenges. And it reminds me that we can rise to those challenges, and they're there to be used as an energy source to help you grow. Period. So, how do we do this? How do we realize this? Because all our lives, people have been telling us, oh, it's hard, it's terrible, it can't be done, it's not going to happen. Baloney. That's absolutely false. The reality is, your mind makes it real. Okay? So, there are 3 things we're going to look at today in the next about 10 minutes or so. One is you're going to face whatever's occurring to you. You're going to face it full on, bravely and cleanly, because you know you're strong enough to handle anything. I mean, look what you've already accomplished. Look where you are today. That's not by accident. That's by the strength of your character. You're going to face it, and then you're going to take what is given to you, and you're going to shape it. You're going to be an artist. You're going to roll on the clay, and you get to form it how you want to. And then you're going to create it and imagine what you want it to be. So, face it, shape it, create it. Face it, shape it, create it. When you face it, what you're doing is, if you're facing any personal challenge, a brain tumor, any limitations, racism, injustice, whatever it is, you're acknowledging it. You're not ignoring it. It's not Pollyanna. It's saying, that is what is. When you shape it, you begin to exert your power to make it what you want it to be. And that's real. You see how real that is? That's not fake. That's not phony. That's you exercising your own strength to build what you want to do. And then you believe it, and you see it, and you make it a reality. This, not him. I was pointing to Ivy J. This is because of Carol Mitchell and others who believe in this. By the way, let's give Carol Mitchell a round of applause. This started with a thought first in her head, and look what it's come to. It's come to a chance for us all to make a better world, a world that deeply needs healing, a world that deeply needs all of you involved to make a future that is real. Face it, shape it, and create it. I'll drop a little science on you here too. Did you know that our unconscious brain takes in 11 million bits of information per second on the subconscious level? 11 million bits. That's like an enormous amount. But you can consciously only focus on 40 of those 11 million bits. That's a narrow slice. So the question isn't what's reality. The question is, what part of reality are you focused on? What are you seeing? What are you doing with your 40 bits every day? Are you practicing complaining or feeling beaten down or dragged down by it? Or are you facing it and dealing with it and shifting that perspective into something consciously that you want to create? You have the power. That's the whole point. It's here. It's here. It's you. What are you doing with those 40 bits? And I want to take something else. There's a great researcher named Richard Tedeschi, and he's done a ton of research about something called post-traumatic stress. And what he found was really fascinating through his long and arduous studies, that the people that can embrace their challenges, work with them, and shape them, have something called post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth, meaning that those who have the best challenges experience the most growth, the most magnificence, the most wondrous abilities within the universe, right? So, whatever your challenges are, they're not there to hurt you. They're there to lift you up, to build you. And science repeatedly, neuroscience, also psychology, epigenetics, which means how my genes express, they all comport with this fact: you have power in your brain, your heart, to build whatever you need. And the challenges you get on the way are there to encourage you, the rocket fuel for your growth. I'm going to take a deep breath again. That is real. That's real. So you don't shy away from brain tumors. You don't shy away from racism. You stand tall. And you make it something beautiful for you. So I'm going to do something just as a quick exercise that helps us see the power of our mental ability to create. Because our minds love to treat negativity like Velcro and positivity like Teflon, right? Because that's the way our brains work. We're going to shift that. So we treat more positive possible potential like Velcro, and the negativity more like Teflon, and it slides off. So on the center of your table is a piece of paper. If you could all grab 2 pieces of paper, or you could use a notepad in your desk or in your bag. I'm standing in front of these incredible people here. I feel like I should be talking to them too. I honor you all. Thank you very much. All right, now, to understand the power we have to determine what our limiting or our abundant beliefs are, because again, this is real, so just know this is real. Write down on a piece of paper your most limiting beliefs about yourself. You just gotta acknowledge it. I can't do this. I'm not, mine would say like, I'm ugly, I'm not smart enough, I don't talk well, I drool, whatever. You write whatever you want. People think I can't. Write your limiting beliefs on that piece of paper. Just a big, you write them all. Write as many as you want. Write your limiting beliefs. What is limiting you? Like what's holding you back? I can't do it, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm X, I'm Y, I'm Z. What's your limiting belief? And write it down. Just take a minute and do this. And as you're doing it, just feel the impact it has on your brain and body to acknowledge and feel these limiting beliefs. It doesn't feel good usually. It feels like it's a weight, it's holding us down, right? Whatever it is, you don't have to show anyone, so you can write anything you want. Now, take that list and look at it and recognize how it makes you feel. I know when I look at this, and I used to look at myself in the mirror, and I would catch myself saying stuff like, man, you are ugly. You look ugly, your eye droops, you drool, you're not worthy. It's a story I told myself. Now take those beliefs and look at them, hold them up, and I want you to do something very specific right now. I want you to take those limiting beliefs, and I want you to do this. Roll it down. Because that is not you. That is not who you are. That is not your reality. It's gone. Now, pick up a new piece of paper. And I want you to write every possibility about yourself that is real. I can do this. I am good enough. I'm smart enough. I'm worthy. I'm talented. I will make a difference in the world. Whatever it is, write it down right now. Because if you do, you're things in your brain, in the world, to make that a reality. This is how you overcome. You shape it. So the first one is face it, let it go. Now, create it, shape it. What do you want? Write down your biggest dream. Don't be shy, because the world will respond to you according to what you put forth. It is done to you as you believe. It's in exact accordance with what you create. Write it down. Be bold. Don't be small. And watch how you feel as you write them. What do you sense? What comes alive in your heart? Does it feel good? Do you relax? Do you feel more bold, beautiful, powerful, powerful, powerful? Write it down. And this is a list that's not to stop here. It's going to grow all the time. Now take that list and read it to yourself right now. Reread it, look at it, and notice how it makes you feel. And then I want you all to close your eyes and see it. This is part of the vision of what IBJ was created on, what Carol does, and what is, again, proven real, unshakably, absolutely, and totally. Close your eyes for a second, breathe it in, and imagine yourself in that place, doing whatever you wrote down. Imagine yourself as that full, complete person. See it. And when you're ready, come back and open your eyes. So it may sound like a little fun exercise, but what we just walked through is again proven to create real and meaningful results. And you can not only just transcend whatever your challenges are, but you can build a better world. And that's what we're here for, is for each one of you in this room to be part of using your most powerful creative tool, your mind, engaging your heart, and creating something beautiful. Punchline for me, I was handed a form of disability when I came out of the hospital, because they said, you're going to be disabled. And I took a look at that form, and I tore it up, just like this. And I said, that's not me. I don't care what anyone else says. What I'm going to do is create something beautiful. And what happened was, my life blossomed into something more beautiful, more profound, and more meaningful than I could ever have imagined. That same ability lies within you right now. And if you take these days seriously and you work with the most important mechanism, which is your mind, then you will harness true power to create whatever you want. And that's not fanciful talk, that's real. Just know you are the future now. Who you are matters now. How you think and feel matters now. And it's how we build a better world together. So take a second and look at your table, reach out, shake hands, fist bump, high five, and say, we got this. Take a second to do that. Here's the bread. Here's the bread. All right, let's come back. Hey, see? How does that feel? How do you all feel right now? How do you feel? That is the reality that we can create together. With IBJ, with each one of you, it's all possible. Thank you and bless you. Have a great day. Now I think I'm turning it over to Keisha Ray. Is that correct? Okay. And now the great and illustrious Keisha Ray.
Hello everyone. I am Anthony Slaughter. I'm stepping in for Andre Jimenez today. Shelby, my co-moderator, Keisha Ray, ask our lovely panel of legacy builders some really insightful questions. I hope you guys are ready for that.
And I'm Keisha Ray, and I'm the co-moderator for the Legacy Panel discussion today. I'm an alumni of the 2021 IBJ ACES Design Challenge, and I'm also a coach for this year's 2022 Design Challengers. Shout out Group 2. I'm a beneficiary of the IBJ's Leadership Development Program as well. The Legacy Builder Panels is one of the most favorite elements of last year's experience by far.
We want to invite our legacy builders to take their place at the head table. It seems like a few of us have already made their way up here, but please, as our former Senator Rosa Franklin takes her seat, allow me to introduce our legacy builders. First is Mr. Lyle Quasim, who is sitting next to me, born Lyle Rogers. Oh, sorry. Please hold your applause for action. Born Lyle Rogers in Chicago in 1943, has held leadership positions in public health and administration in Tacoma, Pierce County, and the state of Washington. In 1995, he became the first African American to head Washington's Department of Social and Health Services. After briefly attending the University of Illinois, Quasim became a civil rights activist in 1964. His political activism was influenced by the socialist values of his mother. He was also influenced by the Nation of Islam, although not a member. In 1970, he changed his name to acknowledge his shared values. Quasim ignored a 1965 draft notice, but in 1966, joined the Air Force. Trained as a medic and was sent to Vietnam, where his activism continued. And in 1969, he left the military. Having begun and ended his service at McCord Air Force Base, Quasim remained in Tacoma. He received a degree in sociology from the University of Puget Sound, and in 1970, a master's degree in sociology from Pacific Lutheran University. And later on, an honorary doctorate from UPS. Quasim joined Tacoma's Black Panther Party, which ran a liberation school and other community services. In 1969, he began professional employment in the mental health field, working night shifts so that he could commit daytime to the Liberation School. In '69, Tacoma experienced a crisis in race relations, highlighted by the Mother's Day disturbance on May 11th, which we'll be talking about today. The Black leaders who helped quell the violence and win concessions from the city formed a group, and in 1970 became the Black Collective, a leadership organization which addressed issues facing the Tacoma Black community. Quasim has co-chaired this voluntary organization since its inception to the present. Sitting next to him is Bill Barzma. Bill was born and raised in Tacoma. He is a product of the Tacoma school system and a graduate of the University of Puget Sound, with a degree in political science awarded in 1964. He finished master's and doctoral degrees in public administration at the George Washington University, and in 1968 began a 33-year career teaching courses in business and public administration at the University of Puget Sound. While at UPS, he served 2 terms as a part-time Tacoma City Council member from 92 to 99. And in 2001, he was elected as Tacoma's 37th mayor. During his tenure as mayor, Barzma prioritized historic preservation, environmental sustainability, and education. He led efforts to save the Murray Morgan Bridge, cleaned up the Foss Waterway and Commencement Bay, and as well as expanded UW-Tacoma to an undergraduate 4-year institution. Upon retiring as mayor, Bill joined the board of the Tacoma Historical Society, where he became board president. During his time as president, Barzma focused on finding a permanent location for Tacoma History Museum and hiring professional staff for the society. He now lives in Tacoma with his spouse, Carol, not Mitchell. Bill's son, Bill Jr., lives in Chicago, and his daughter, Katya, lives in upstate New York. Sitting next to Bill, we have Amir. We have Amir Abdul Mateen, born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, living in Gig Harbor, Washington. He is a native to Tacoma, graduating from Stadium High School and Tacoma Community College. He is now retired and spends his time as a youth football and track coach, as well as an assistant boxing coach and entrepreneur. Last but certainly not least, Senator Rosa Franklin, number 5 of 11 children born to James Edwin Bourdin and Henrietta Bryant Bourdin on April 4, 1927. At home in Cordsville, Berkeley County, South Carolina. At the age of 8, she went to live with her aunt and uncle in Georgetown, who became empty nesters when their youngest daughter entered college. However, Rosa would return every summer to bond with her family and friends. These were lasting memories of a love for her large extended family with deep roots in South Carolina. After graduating from Howard University, the class of 44, she attended South Carolina State College for a semester prior to entering nursing training through the cadet nursing program at Good Samaritan Waverly Hospital in Columbia, South Carolina. Graduating class of 1948. Senator Franklin's 42 years in profession gave her a broad view of health and healthcare at home and abroad. She became a persistent advocate for nurses in healthcare. She continued her education while raising a family, working full-time, earning her BA, MA, WHS, including an honorary doctorate. In 1990, she was elected as state representative to the Washington State Legislature, representing the 29th Legislative District, and was re-elected in 1992. She was later appointed to Senate to fill the vacancy when the long-serving senator in her district passed away prior to the beginning of 1993. She then had to run in a special election shortly followed by another regular election to retain her Senate seat. She won both times. Retiring from the Senate in 2010 after serving 20 years in the state's legislature, she has left a legacy of public service. Senator Franklin making history as the first African-American woman to serve in the Senate and President pro tem. She served on committees, passed major bills, and made sure she was a strong voice and advocate for her district, always remembering, making a difference, and lifting you as she climbs. Please give a round of applause for our legacy builders.
Faith leaders, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and former elected officials who bring decades of understanding of civil and human rights activism. The IBJ recently completed a series of podcasts where these iconic leaders share their understanding of the historical moment in which this year's Freedom Summer Symposium is anchored, the May 11, 1969 Mother's Day Uprising in Tacoma.
The Mother's Day Uprising was a critical moment in the evolution of civil rights in Tacoma. Young adults at the time, like Amir, James L. Walton, and Lyle Kasim, were using their voices and their bodies to take direct action against a political power structure in Tacoma. It was a structure that was hostile to the full participation of its Black citizens, and that tolerated open acts of racial harassment, violence, and disinvestment in Tacoma's Hilltop, where the vast majority of Tacoma's Black citizens resided at the time.
Now let's begin with the first question for today's panel. Senator Franklin, I'll have you kick us off with this first question. What would you say were the primary social and political factors that led to Tacoma's May 11th, 1969 uprising?
Well, actually, to be frank, I think it's embedded racism, because within the whole structure, social structure, political structure, wherever you would go, or wherever I would go, that a lot of times I didn't see anybody that looked like me in leading positions. There were things that had been really accomplished, but it's so that we were not really moving fast enough. I came here in 1954, and this was in 1969. When I left in 1959 to go back overseas, we had been working for racial justice and social justice, and then coming back and seeing what was taking place in Tacoma. But I was not actually involved because I was busy raising my young family, and then of course I came in school and worked on it. So I think some underlying was that whole thing of what was based on race, based on not really having equality, although some gains had been made, and it was still there, and if it's embedded, it takes a lot to get it out. So that's what my take.
Thank you, Senator Franklin. Our second question is going to be directed to Lyle and Dr. Barzma. How are those factors similar or different from those present in Tacoma today?
Lyle points to me. I guess I'm on first. How are things different than they were in 1969? Well, let's kind of put the context of 1969 is important to remember. 3 words come to mind. Elections really matter. Okay? That certainly was the case in 1969. Tacoma had never been as polarized or deeply divided as it was in 1969, certainly in our history. The city was led by a right-wing, conservative populist by the name of Lawrence Albert Rasmussen, known as Slim Rasmussen. He was gerrymandered out of the legislative district by his own party. He and his colleague, Councilmember Becky Banfield, who was our version of Marjorie Taylor Greene at the time, and I kid you not, for 2 years attacked viciously the Human Relations Director, Lynn Hodges, and the Human Relations Commission, chaired by the beloved E.S. Brazil, attacked every Tuesday. There were 2 police officers on the city council at the time, retired, and gave the officers the green light and free license, pretty much, to do what they wished up on the Hill. So that's what was going on in 1969. 44,000 people voted. By the way, it was an election year. 44,000 people voted in that mayor's election. The city of 150,000. 44,000 people have never voted to this day, or ever in history, for mayor. So the level of intensity was very high at that time. So that's the way things were in 1969. It's not the way things are now. We'll talk a little bit later, I suspect, about the changes that were triggered as a result of what happened on May 11th, which was a profound event in Tacoma's history that triggered all sorts of political actions that followed. Things now are very different. We have an African American serving as mayor. We have 4 people of color serving on the city council. We have an African American police chief, an African American fire chief. You know, if you were to ask me back in 1969, would I ever see this in my lifetime? I thought I have grave doubts, frankly. Majority of the city council was made of women. About time, about damn time. Barbara Bixel served on the city council for 10 years, the only woman for 10 years on the city council. So, and Harold Moss was the only person of color to serve on the city council for 18 years. So we've seen a lot of changes, at least in a broader context. But the issues still remain. The issues of poverty, racism, still remain as they were in 1969. But we've come a ways, and we've got a ways to go. So that was the context in 69. That is the situation today. As I say, the whole series of events that occurred between that time and what we see today. So we've come a ways.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pointed to you because I know that appointed officials should never speak before elections. and not myself. I grew up in Chicago and I came to Tacoma in 1967. When Emmett Till was murdered, I was 13. When George Floyd was murdered, I was 77. Between the dots, not much has changed. How we tell the story has changed. How we understand the story has changed. How, in some ways, we react to the story has changed. But the basic elements in America have not changed. And they had not changed in 1969 when I arrived to Tacoma. And I was not part of the harmonizing force. I was not with Tom Dixon. I was not with Bill Hood, with Harold Moss. I was not with Jim Walton. I was on the side of the rock throwers, the insurrectionists, if you will, saying, I don't know what y'all are waiting on. I came from Chicago, and we had seen these oppressive kinds of environments in Chicago in such a way that it didn't look like there was much we could do about it. But in Tacoma, it looked like we had enough of a critical mass to actually do something about it. So I was not part of the harmonizing force. I was part of the agitating force. Now, today, as Mayor Barker said, much has changed and I have changed. And so when I became a liberal, it was a move to the right of the organization. and so I am a liberal. I am a progressive now. I was raised in a communist household from a socialist mother, and I still see those things in my core. And I saw those things in 1969. Those basic principles of oppression, as Senator Franklin said, racism. We're here at the Academy, so I'll just use one academic. There's a thing called Occam's razor. And Occam's razor, it just says, is a theory of investigation. Look for the most likely reason why an event has occurred. I mean, you don't have to turn over a lot of rocks. You don't have to be one of the premier thinkers in the state of Washington or in America to understand that racism exists, and it has many manifestations, and those manifestations expressed themselves in Tacoma in 1969, which resulted in an uprising. And I am so happy that there were people there to ameliorate, to try to manage the situation, because the ultimate insult is death. And when we are in those situations, you know who when most of you dying. It will not be the people who perpetrate racism. It will be the people who are impacted by racism.
Wow, thank you. We're only halfway through the panel and I already have a response. This is great. It's going great. This next question is for you, Mr. Mateen. What was the individual or collective blueprint that you followed, or what methods did you use for bringing about social and political change back in 1969?
Let me first just open up with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Perfect and absolute praise is due to our Creator, the only one God. I bear witness in that one God, and I bear witness in all of his prophets and messengers, from Adam to Muhammad. May the prayers and peace be upon all of them, and to you all, peace be upon you. I want to try to just give you a picture that may be a familiar picture with some of you. That was when I grew up. I was about 19 years old when, and let me say this, I'm going to have a disclaimer because I don't want to, if I say something to offend anyone's thoughts or beliefs, during that time of the so-called, that's me, Mother's Day uprising. I was a default activist by my own nature. I was influenced by the concepts of the Black Panther Party. Not directly involved, but directly involved. I love to listen to Huey P. Newton. I love to listen to H. Rap Brown, now Jamil Al-Amin, that's being oppressed in prison for his beliefs. I believe I listened to Stokely Carmichael, but my most favorite was El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, known more as Malcolm X. And so when I came before I came out of high school, and out of high school, and around the so-called Mother's Day uprising, I had no idea of an uprising on Mother's Day. Because what I did on Mother's Day was to go find my mother a gift and spend that time with her. Before and after that, there was activity in the neighborhood of racism, vigilantes coming from the north end by way of 6th Avenue down into what is now Martin Luther King, was K Street, and we hung out at the Malcolm X Center. And I just want to throw a side note in there for all of us. I was so disturbed when they changed the name from the Malcolm X Center to the People's Center. I mean, it is cool that it's the People's Center, but it was the Malcolm X Center, and that's where our callus was. That's where we sprung from with our fight against racism, police harassment, etc. And I know I'm not answering the question. I don't answer questions given to me well. I answer them outside of the box, how I need to express it, right? And so I wasn't in contact at that time with, the urban leagues and the black collectives and the political realms, because I was the one that refused to go to Vietnam. I did everything I could to avoid being drafted in the U.S. military. I'm not speaking against it. I'm just saying that's me during that time. I was not going. I had already made plans, and I'm sorry that my answer is, this way, but this is the only way I know how. Thank you. Thank you. I had already made plans to move to Canada if they were going to take me. And I'm serious. Me and a bunch of white boys at the YMCA in Seattle, where they used to go for the testing. I flunked every test they gave me intentionally. I did. To me, the tests were psychological, so I tried to play in their psychological battle to give them reverse psychology in my answers on the test. I flunked the first test. They sent all those to another room. I flunked that test intentionally, and then they sent us to see a psychologist. So I never went to the military by intent. The vigilantes that came into our neighborhood along with the police harassment only encouraged us to see and fight for what was necessary for that harassment upon us at the Malcolm X Center. You got to understand, I'm influenced by the Black Panthers by way mostly of newspaper and bad news reports on TV. By the Muhammad Speaks newspaper that was issued by the Nation of Islam, where Malcolm was speaking mostly from. Stokely Carmichael and all of those. This is the influence that we had. And by the way, when we were at the Malcolm X Center, we had the pleasure of hosting Brother Muhammad Ali when he came through, because he refused to go to the military.
we took defense of the neighborhood, of our own selves, our own lives, the disrespect that we were receiving from the political status. They weren't doing anything, they were washing over things, pacifying jobs, etc. But the racism never changed. Like I said, it's still there. What you see today, and I advise you young people, to get a better look at this and some others, to read books like The Autobiography from Malcolm X, Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the letters of George, someone said? No. He was one of the Soledad brothers in prison.
George Jackson.
George Jackson. Yes. Thank you very much.
George Jackson, Free the Drum Gold.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. And when I'm in this city, my mind gets to running so much. Sometimes things don't come into that conscious word. So we were on the street. We saw all this from the street level. We didn't see this from the office level, the job level. We were on the street. And all we know is that vigilantes were coming into the neighborhood, trying to run us over in front of the Malcolm X Center. And instead of the police department coming to the problem, they came and caused problems by harassing us because we were defending ourselves and speaking out. During a portion of that time, during that era, there was a law passed that if there were more than 5 African American men standing on a street corner, it instituted a riot. So you can understand that how they approached us and how we reacted to them, because that's what we were doing even before that. We stood on the street corner in front of 24 Flavors or kitty corner at the Malcolm X Center in numbers of 5, 10, 15, $20, depending on the weather of the day, whether it was raining or not, or whether we just wanted to gather and speak about what was going on. But this is the perspective, and I hope I'm giving a picture. This is the perspective and the picture that I saw this from. 19 years old, fresh out of high school, refused, and I'm not saying this for anybody else, refused to accept a football scholarship at the University of Simon Fraser in Canada because I felt that I had a job to do in front of the Malcolm X.
All right.
So take that picture and place that picture in today's, whatever it is you see these pictures in your mind, and you will basically have, with some slight changes, the same concepts, the same problems, the same racism, and the same reaction in your mind and your heart, especially you young people. The same reaction felt mine in your heart that we had during that time, because it is still the same. And if it comes to you taking in front of the Malcolm X Center and speaking your mind, however you choose to, don't let it pass. I don't have time to read that. But do what you feel that's in your heart and in your mind, and make the sacrifices that you think that you can make or must make to let the world know, first yourself, let the world know your stand against the oppressive word environment that we face today, and that you young people face more so than we faced in those days, and stand up for your rights. That sounds like Bob Marley.
inspiring activists into action today, what social or political challenge would you want us to address? And where is there still work to be done?
What social or political challenge would you
Want us to address, millennials to address? Everybody, you don't want to pass that microphone over to the woman.
would you want us to address? Well, let me say, as I said, let me say that I am years older. I'm probably the oldest person. You're elder, and I've seen a lot. And I've come through a lot. And where I landed, it was not by myself alone. I stood on other people's shoulders. I stood on the shoulders that came before. The fight for the struggle for social justice started a long time ago. And each generation picks up and does a little more. You stand on that person's shoulder, you stand on the next person's shoulder, and when you reach back and you bring somebody along with you. I was taught that from a very early age. You reach back, you don't say, I have arrived, because you never arrive. The fight continues until the day you die for social and political justice. Yeah. Our democracy right now is under attack, whatever you may think. So, to answer your question, your generation, you cannot come and say, I'm starting something new. You are continuing the struggle. So the next step, like one author, and I can't quite remember the name, said, is one step forward and two steps back. You move forward today, that which we have accomplished, and we have made changes. Whether you accept it or not, we have made changes. So the changes that we have made right now is under attack. Instead of moving forward, they want to take us all back. And unless we come together and work together and not get into little pods and say, I've got mine, you've got yours to get. That's not the way it works. So for you, it means for you to take on, first, know your history. It is not taught in schools. I learned it as a Southerner, okay? I know my history. So, American history was not taught in school. It's select history that is being taught. So in your generation, look what is happening today. It's moving forward. So first of all, be sure you are registered to vote.
Yes.
The wrong persons or one of them gets into office. You see what is happening with redistricting? You see what is happening? Let's not become blindsided and say, this is little me. So, register to vote. Vote every day, all the time. Chicago used to say, vote
Early and often.
early enough. So, therefore, register to vote. The next thing is, when it comes to social justice, it is not justice about just you. It's the justice about my neighbor. It's justice about my neighbor. So therefore, when you work, social justice said, I am working for my neighbor and for the generation generation after me. The next thing is your leadership. How do you want to be reflected as a leader? I did marches. I fought for work with labor, organized labor. We stood, we walked. I walked many, and did many things. Did it all. I've done it all. Let's put it that way. And so for you, it means that bring people together in order to solve problems. You, for where you are, for social justice, as I said, you have to say, okay, you've got yours now. We've got to get together so I can have mine, and all of us will reach that point together. So for your generation, know your history, register to vote, vote all day, become involved in the party of your choice. I don't care what it is. I know what I am, and I know. But become involved. Some they do not become, that's dirty politics. But I have gone to places where there was nobody else that wanted me, but I was there and I was learning. So do not isolate yourself. Know your neighbor. Bring somebody along. And stay and get your education. Education is very important. Tell it to the generation that's following you. Do not drop out of school. Learn, read. Do not just take on what they teach you in school. Get your history. So that's what I say for the next generation, because it's being taken away very, very slowly.
But I have the last question, and I would like for each one of you to answer. What advice do you have for how we might update the individual or collective approach you used in 1969? Lyle, do you want to start us off?
Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. It's better now. Okay, great. Okay, back in 1969, let's talk about the way things were there and the way things are today. I was the acting coordinator of the Black Studies program at the University of Puget Sound at the time. I was an unofficial advisor of the Black Students Union at the time. The young people that I worked with on the issue all went on to do great things in their careers. Almost all got graduate degrees. One went on to be an 18-year coach in the National Football League, Al Roberts. It was an incredible time both on campus and off back in 1969. However, if they were to ask me, I never really did, but if they were to ask me, Professor Barsma, do you think I have a shot at being elected to the city council? Do you think I have a shot at being at the dais rather than at the podium facing the dais? I would probably say, well, sure. But my real thoughts are, just look at the people sitting at the dais at that time. None looked like them. None had their beliefs like them. And the chances of that happening back then was very, very difficult. Matter of fact, we actually took some surveys at that time, and on behalf of Harold Moss's campaign for city council, his first campaign in 1969, found that he could not be elected in Tacoma. In fact, a black person could not be elected in Tacoma in 1969, in November of 1969. That's the way things were. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of things happened. That May 11th event triggered a lot of events that followed and led to kind of where we are today, including the defeat of the sitting mayor at the time, the right-wing populist Slim Rasmussen, who, by the way, Rosa Franklin replaced him in the Senate. Think about that. Think about that. When he died, Rosa Franklin replaced A.L. Slim Rasmussen when he went into the Senate after losing his election in Tacoma. That, by the way, was a great turning point in Tacoma history. So a lot of things followed after that. So I would say now, all you have to do is look at the people sitting at the dais now. Do they look like you? Are they like you? And the answer is yes, they are like you. So there has been, as I say, a tremendous change in terms of the demographics of Tacoma and the opportunities in our city in terms of the city positions of power and influence. Let me just say once again, I'll echo the words of Senator Franklin, saying that elections really do matter. And the way Tacoma was back in 1969 was a microcosm of the way the entire country is today, deeply polarized and divided. And the only way that we can overcome that challenge is, as the senator said, former senator said, register to vote, be active, help out in campaigns to make a difference, because elections are decided on the margins. As former Mayor Eversole was here with us for the test, the margins are 5%, one way or the other, oftentimes determine the outcome of elections and who sits at the dais and who makes decisions about the future of this country. So we've come a ways, a long ways. There are opportunities now, and I would echo everything that Rosa Franklin said. By the way, we met back in 1976, and when she says work hard and stick to it, her life story and her success in politics attest to that fact, because she worked in the trenches for the party and did the tough work, and she ran for office unsuccessfully initially, didn't give up, stuck with it, and ended up as a state senator, great influence in court. So everything that she said. It's not platitudes or dreaming, you know. Her life story attests to the reality of the situation. So that's my comments.
So, what I would say that you need to do differently than what we did in the struggle of 1969 is how you look at this work. What is your worldview of social change? So I'm going to take a little bit from Drew Eversole. If this work drains you, I hear people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm so tired." You know, shit. If you're tired, you're doing the wrong work. Go home, get out of my way. Because if you can't get excited about this, then you're looking at the work in the wrong way. When I was a younger person, I never got tired of going out to the nightclub. You know, I never got tired of dancing, getting high. You know, so how am I going to get tired of doing work on the behalf of the people, on behalf of myself, on behalf of changes? So, how do you see the work that you're doing? How does it reinforce? How does it fill you up? How does this say to you, I can, I will, and I must? And so that's the first change, you know. The second is we all have individual, collective, and regional and community issues. We have to figure a way of how to look at the things that we hold dear together and use those as going back to Drew again, it's Velcro. It's something that binds us but not pushes us apart. At the Black Collective, we have a big tent. I have homophobic clergy and eco-terrorists in the same damn room. You know, and we have to figure out how to make it work. And you got to do the same thing. You got to figure out how to make it work, how to come together. We got more in common. One of the reasons that we failed in the 60s and the 70s is that we became so doctrinaire and so compartmentalized that we couldn't figure out how to work across our differences. And you got to figure out how to work across your differences. The issue of Malcolm X's product. I was adjunct faculty here for 2 years. And I remember, Carolyn, while sitting in the provost's office, and the provost asked me, I just wrote down my book list. I was teaching social stratification. And the booklet was the electric Kool-Aid acid test, Black Elk Speaks, Fan Shin, the story of the Chinese Revolution, and the autobiography of Malcolm X. And the provost said, well, what's that got to do with social stratification? I said, it's got everything to do with social stratification. And when we, in 2022, can look at all of the literature that is produced about social change, engage in, think about it, be a critical observer, a critical participant in engaging that culture. And think about it and how can we use it as Velcro that pulls us together, that keeps us, we have more in common than we have more apart. And let the work embrace you, let the work fulfill you, make it as much. I'll go back to Drew again. Write down the thing that you have the most fun doing and be truthful. That makes you the happiest. And make the work of social change equal to that most fun thing that you do and the thing that makes you the happiest. And it will never, because there is no finish line. If you're looking for the finish line, and then when you quit looking for the finish line, you just say, well, you know, you get up, you do what you can, where you are, with what you got, as long as you can. You don't have to wait for anybody. This is what you do. Today at almost 79, I'm here, and I'll be someplace else for the next couple hours, or someplace else for the next couple hours, and then the day is over, and I will go to bed with a big ass smile.
Abbreviation POC, and unfortunately I'm not speaking of Tupac, which is cool, but it's a problem, opportunity, and challenge. Where there's a problem, there's an opportunity, and it should challenge you to solve that problem, to see through that problem. I was listening to one of my favorite artists, some of you young people may not know, maybe you might, Curtis Mayfield. Chicago being well read. One of his words in one of his songs was, check out your mind, it's been with you all the time. My next statement is creation-based thinking. In all of creation, a seed from a plant, the fertilization of the egg from a husband's wife when they become pregnant. The chemicals in the ground are designed to fight against that seed, to grow, to germinate and grow, and to break the ground to receive the energy of the sun, so that it can grow and its branches reach towards the heavens. The body chemistry in the woman, it is said by doctors that there are over 1 million cells released from the male into the female, and that the natural body chemistry fights off all of those over 1 million cells trying to fertilize that egg. One cell, by the grace of God, is given the strength to fertilize that egg out of 1 million, and that's every one of us.
Come on now.
That's creation-based thinking. Though the picture may seem bleak to many people, but on the other side, things are changing, things are growing, people are becoming more aware. I was at a graduation, a thesis presentation at UPS, and I'm looking at all you young students here. Our future is in great hands with the minds that are being produced from the problems, the opportunity, and the challenges, and the creation-based thinking. If we keep that concept in mind, that creation-based thinking, knowing that everything may come against you, but it's only to strengthen you. And take that and run with it and be the best that you can. Know who you are. Know your history. Know your spirituality most. Always put God first. If you're a Christian, be the best Christian. If you're a Muslim, be the best Muslim. If you're a Jew, be the best Jew. But always give first thanks and praise to your Creator. Read His words, because His words have all the answers to all the problems that have ever existed and ever will exist in creation in the life of the human being, because the human being is His number one crown of creation, and everything that we need to have to be successful in this life and the next are in those scriptures. Read them for yourself, study them. Don't let somebody else only give them to you. Go dig into it for yourself, study the history, and continue to grow as a human being, most of all spiritually.
Okay, I am so sorry, but we're running out of time right now. But I have to say thank you to Drew, to Keisha, Ajane, Lyle, Bill, Amir, and Senator Rosa Franklin. Thank you very much. I hope you all learned something. And we are into the noontime carol, but we want to spend a little bit more time for one more performance. Do we? Yeah. Is that okay? So what I'd like to do is, if you want to stand up, just do a quick stretch. There was a lot to listen to, and it was excellent. But just do a quick stretch, and I'm going to call forward our next presenter. Where is she? Please don't go too far. We're okay, can you please be seated? Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is cute here, is Lydia Valentine. She is our current Tacoma Poet Laureate, and she's going to share some of her writing, some of her wisdom that she's gained as a Black woman, a writer, a daughter, a mother, student, and teacher. And she will read a poem that she created called Freedom to Be, How Appropriate, after this panel, and poetry reading and words on Black liberation and Black joy. May I present Lydia Valentine.
In addition to all of that, I have ADHD and I'm autistic, so I was going to have everybody stand up and just take a little bit of a moment to please excuse me. So how are you all doing today? Excellent. Awesome. If at any point you feel like you need to just get up a little bit, feel free to do one. All right. So this is it's going to be poetry and some of my writing and just reflection all smooshed up together. The hands that shape. My hands are often dry and rough, and through the cracks you can see the legacy of my father, whose hands built a foundation of family as solid as the beams he forged in Janelle Steel Mill. A man's hands, doing work in a place that saw him as the man he was, not the boy he'd been forced to be in the confines of the Jim Crow South, where he learned the strength and grief and duty of being a man, a real man, from the mother who raised him on her own, tying on the shackles of a maid's apron strings and cleaning houses so that her children wouldn't have to, and the specter of a father who was not man enough to stay. My father's work, his life, hardened his hands, but they were never too hard to gently hold the hand of my mother, whose thin golden fingers provided the mold from which mine were cast, and showed me the graceful strength that is needed to take the hand of another, to build a life and a family together, and gave me the confidence to know that I could do anything on my own and do it well, including shape a life for myself, for my children, if a partner worthy enough to take my hand and walk beside me never came along. A piece of wisdom that was often repeated by my parents, Lorraine and Lamar Roberts, as my siblings and I were growing up, was get your education. Then you'll have something that no one can ever take from you. My father was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama in the 40s and the 50s, while my mother was from the North, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. Her childhood was marred by the violence my grandmother faced at the hands of my grandfather. Both of my parents lived with trauma, with the resulting physical and emotional scars from experiences that taught them, and in a country that reminded them that what you hold dear can be snatched away at any moment. Regardless, my parents were not bitter people. They liberated themselves from the circumstances of their past. Who they were and how they were showed us that education is not the only thing that we can hold on to that can strengthen us. This next piece was written and is dedicated to one of your later performers, Diana Starr, who is, along with you all, a bright beacon of our hope. We, our hope, endure. Our hope is not a small thing with feathers. It doesn't idly perch and sing softly in our souls. Our hope is the bright iron thread of our grace-woven souls and flies forever on broad, steel-laced wings called faith. Who could question our path? Who could block our goals? We endure and endeavor. Our hope is not a small thing with feathers. Time has not been kind, but we have always been clever. We know how to grind and have what they never stole, our hope. It is the bright iron thread of our grace-woven souls and flies forever. Our pain comes in acid waves and sharp rocks and fiery weather. Futures are snatched, generations wiped from the rolls. But our hope is not a small thing with feathers. We know how to last, we know what to treasure. Even when we have nothing, no amount of control, our hope is the bright iron thread of our grace-woven souls and flies forever. We are a people of promise, a force when we are together. We are a movement of light, a symphony of grace, a miracle to extol. Our hope is not a small thing with feathers. Our hope is the bright iron thread of our grace-woven souls, and it will fly forever. The hope of our people, of the Black diaspora, is nothing short of miraculous. There's not been a time that we have been on these shores that we have not faced genocidal intent and state-sanctioned violence. Blood-washed sediment began to settle on these shores 400 years ago. And even more has piled on and piled on and piled on every new year and every new day since. Truckloads and handfuls of malice, sly verbal micro-bullets at best, state-sanctioned viral murders at worst, are dumped and thrown like ground glass powder into the air. We of all castes breathe this airborne malignance. We of all castes are coated with it, inside and out. Black life here has forever been a bloody business. Our pain, the perverse entertainment of picnic lynchings, phone-filmed lynchings, souvenir postcards, and social media posts. owe it to ourselves to continue to be. My parents had additional go-to sayings from which I received wisdom. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. This meant keep your signifying to yourself and don't put out a negative attitude and it won't come back to bite you in the behind. This was usually followed up with something else I heard a lot in life. The life you save might be your own. I take guidance from the flip side of this. If I don't put positive energy out in the world, I won't get anything good in return. Seek out your dreams today. Pretty is as pretty does. In other words, just because someone looks good on the outside or smiles in your face and panders, it doesn't mean the person is good on the inside or has your best interests truly at heart. Accept a person in your life based on what they do, how they treat you and others, not how they look or seem. One monkey don't stop no show. Don't let anyone get in the way of your forward progress. Keep getting up, keep getting out there, keep living your best life. You're crying with a loaf of bread under your arm. This gem from my father is a reminder not to lament the things you don't have. Instead, appreciate what you do have. Wise, right? Lest you think I have an overly sanitized memory of my dad, I should point out that he usually dropped this particular gem while trouncing us in spades or poker, laughing all the while. What makes you fat don't make me fat. What I take away from this is that we all have people and things that we love and that other people clearly don't. So enjoy who and what you love and let others enjoy who and what they love. Liberate yourself from the constraints of toxic societal norms, pettiness, and judgment that have their roots in anything but love. My parents had a great shining love that endured. In fact, my mother's last words were, I see your father. This brings me to my last piece of advice and my last poem. Love wins, but the war is not over. Love, action verb, intransitive form. 1. To work actively, directly, or indirectly in opposition of hate, in any form, from any source, including yourself, regardless of personal benefit. Neither Merriam nor Webster signed off on this definition. It didn't leap from the catalog of Shakespeare's lexiconic creations. The days when dead white men delivered our truth are over. There is no ambiguity in the meaning that I offer you here. Unlike the cloudy quagmire of tone-bound definitions like love, verb, transitive, to feel deep affection for. Who determines the adequate depth of feeling for it to be deemed deep? And affection means fondness, which means affection. Love is more than a candy-coated confection. It is the cleansing fire and soaring flight of a dragon armored in grace. It sounds like a lot because it is. You may be mentally retreating to the safety of the directive, choose your battles wisely. I say we are where we are now because of that cubic zirconian piece of advice. Because of people seeing their battles as separate from or even against their neighbors and everyone and everything else in this world. And cherry-picking the shiny issues plumped up on the limbs of the trees that only grow in their yards, while ignoring the fact that those trees are possible because of the soil toiled and tended for generations by the original stewards of our lands, and the roots that have been and continue to be watered by the lifeblood of Black and brown people. But that is a poem for another day. To love is not to pick your battles, but to know that all of our battles are the same battle, and to pick your tactics wisely. March or make sandwiches, shout or sing, fundraise or film, love. Set boundaries, see things through, stay informed, stay hydrated, rest, return, love. Take your time, but take a step, take your meds, take a chance, love. Say thank you when someone holds the door for you. Come on, Tacoma. Say I'm sorry, say no, love. Hold someone's hand, hold someone's heart, are a gift. You are meant. Live. Love. Let go of the toxic, even if it came from your mama, even if it came from your church, even if it comes from within. Love. Remember your name, remember your worth, remember your selfness that lives regardless of relationship or real estate. Love. Love wins because to love is to fight for all of us, and it never stops. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I found so many threads this morning, in everything that of the presenters and the speakers, a lot of connections, and hopefully you can see that this is social learning right now in action. So without further ado, I know that you're probably feeling like you've already been fed and feel full, but we still have food out there for you. And I just want to say that the catering department at PLU has provided us a light lunch for you to enjoy. So we'd like you to go outside where the breakfast was set up and get a brown bag, if you will. And we ask that you please eat your lunch outside in the hallway, and you can socialize a bit, meet and greet, mingle a bit. And if some of the panelists are still around, I would definitely take this opportunity to talk to them, because history only comes once and past only comes once, and we have the legacy builders right here. I'm so glad this is going to be recorded, because I'm certainly going to be watching it as soon as I get a chance to. So let's go have some lunch, and we'll be back here at, let's say 12:30 something. Okay, sounds good. Have a good one.
I wasn't all doing that. I guess we now know. Okay, so let me inject my channel. Actually, let me a minute. This is what? Oh, they only
Comes in
working on this all day. So. But if you want to go on, so it's just outside of Tacoma. Yeah. So it's just yeah, if you want to drive down, for all that, I would appreciate it. Sure. So what time do you want to go?
If they chose.
6 or 7 tonight? Okay, that worked out. So, you wanna so that's in Tacoma. It's at a narrow group. Yeah, I'll meet on Saturday if you want to, and it's trivia night, so you're more than welcome to throw down on trivia night if you want to jump in. Okay, I'll check you on Saturday, man. Okay, thank you. All right, bye-bye. What's that? Yeah, I got a partnership we pushed through with AT&T.
Word.
Yeah, AT&T, and so there's my guy who works at AT&T, so he's with us in their vendor in their non-profit vendor program. Yeah. So they just disposed of the 5 monitors, so we have the 5 monitors for us. So he needs to drop them off on me, so it looks like we're going to meet up on Saturday. So we're going to be like, most definitely super hot. And that 3D man's ordering, man. I got unlimited free computers back. I just put in an order for what I need. I send it down to them. They actually got 10 waiting for me right now to go down and pick up. So I got to drive down to Portland, pick up the gear. And these ones are actually full machines. Hard drives, everything. They've already been completely refurbished and tested. Wow. So like as soon as the jump off, like June 10th, and these kids start getting there and start doing their thing, man. Boom, we got machines for days. I got over 20 computers now and 15 monitors.
That's badass, Ryan.
It's pretty dope, yeah. We got light up keyboards and stuff. Oh, check it out. I actually, because I'm a geek, so like
I understand entirely.
So I got really bored yesterday. I needed to do a test on the machines anyway. So I put that into my bread box. So this is actually one of the machines the kids will get. So that's their monitors, that's their keyboard, their mouse.
Oh, I like it.
I built the computer into my bread box though because I was bored and I wanted to watch TV while I make pancakes. And I was like, who wants to get grease and stuff on it?
Okay, so there is literally nothing in this one.
In the slideshow?
No, in the second, this.
Oh, the secret? Oh, from Bruce Cameron?
Yeah. Okay, so let me.
We got bag lunches, and we got.
We are hot. All right, so let's. Should I just download the slideshow to my kernel before we pick it up there, or do you describe it as early views? Download it off the computer.
Oh, I can check and see if I can download it off the machine.
Okay.
Let me go check and then
Anyway, he describes his church as a kid talking to an elder when he discussed symposium. He's a white guy. He had black friends. He was a lot of black friends. And he was describing the issues that those black friends had that he was concerned about as a friend. He was describing them to an elder in his church. The elder said, oh, that's not talking about the church. He was asking questions like, why isn't the church
they're concerned with these problems that you kind of think of. The elder said, oh, those things are politics. As though that isn't church stuff. You're wrong. Oh, serious? And it's still Catholic. That was gone. Like many folks have looking at it. As a result, the church, like you say, is kind of resistant. Not all of them, but many.
Oh crap, Brian. I know. So I have them on my first. No, I'm thinking. Okay, so this one had nothing on it.
Let me see. It was completely right.
Okay, so it looks like we are okay on Malik's music. We're okay on Malik's music because that's music he made.
Oh, okay. On the whose music?
Malik.
Oh.
Yeah, so we won't be able to stream Arcane Gallery now, which
Because
copyright infringement.
Oh.
Yeah, with her music. You figure out what it is?
Can we play it local?
No, we can play it. We just can't live stream it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You remember which one was it? The Dirty Good?
I've got a 128. Do you want to use that? Okay.
Yeah, this makes sense.
I haven't, it's Brand's making it straight up.
This one should have poetry on the right hand side. It should have
Oh no, it's still not showing anything. Still nothing. Yeah. I don't know why, but they go in there. Is it locked?
We were talking about
That's weird. Is it like a formatting thing?
I think it might be with the camera switch. I think it might change to the cafeteria with the
Too much caffeine. Water.
So the camera with the power is staying on good strong.
Yeah, we haven't ran any issues.
Good. Yay. Finally.
How are you doing? Good, how are you? Oh, my head's about to explode. I'm doing alright though, considering.
You are saving me.
She's like fireworks and they keep exploding. Oh no, I grabbed my bag. I'm gonna wait until festival starts before I even think about the festival. Oh, it's just really long.
So I will call you. Okay, yes,
Actually, do you see Malik? Will you send them my way real quick?
That would be awesome. I was trying to write something.
Thank you.
But I was writing. I moved here when I was 2, so I don't really never been there. No, I'm from yeah, I used to we are literally
I couldn't find your email for the order of your music, but I think I just found it. So
You good? Okay. If you need anything, I'm here.
oh yeah, I'll holler at you. So getting the music because it's got more than one song.
That's okay. You can take a clip. Okay, so. Alright, so how do you want to try to pull this off?
Okay, so we are good for
I have a feeling. The question is, why? So are we playing the song?
yeah, we're playing the music and he's just finishing.
For the dance? For the dance?
No, for
The dancing.
For Diana Star to play it and then she'll
We just will broadcast it?
I'm going to be picking up
Like I was talking, I know we were talking about the visibility factor of like if you were like Pleasant Hands kindergarten, right? Like you could probably get away with it. But like if there's anybody who is interested in causing any problems, the last thing you want to do is give them a nice vibe they can talk about.
No, you're absolutely right, and I know that. I don't know why I didn't put that together. Let me find.
I mean, technically you can't start bottling it in the
okay, so. So we can't do the slideshow. Or the lunchtime thingy and just play that. Switch it up.
But you're not in that.
You put it on a bumper.
I don't even know if it's worth it now. It's already almost 1240.
This is very unfortunate here.
I wish you could. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to eat this.
They have a turkey, right?
Yeah, but it's got some absolutely wonderful.
What about the pepper? We had red pepper pasta.
I'm pretty sure we did this one, but it's potato bread. I think it's a little bit better.
Do you want me to go grab something from the cafeteria? A salad? Meat on it? I'm saying, you know me. I'm not very conscious human being. I like to do everything by the numbers. So it's like, I don't know. Was that? Yeah, I think so. I'm going to try to put together a little bit of slide deck. Podcast. You guys can go up there and do your thing. Best thing to do is go up there and do your thing. You'd be the most comfortable being you. Knock it out. Maybe we should not do it. Yeah, so I was just talking to the channel. Discussing that's what we got from the next one. See if we got from that. Yeah.
We're the 18. There you go.
I can make a funny face.
Yeah, we're not living pictures like that. Yeah, it's good. They're going to make it bring us to populations that are less than mobile. So we need to worry about the cost of moving from point A to point B. It's nicer. $5.50 a gallon for gas. Pretty rough. Okay, nah. Did somebody break our board?
Oh, you're very disconnected. There we go.
How are we doing this? We gotta practice. We gotta set up some kind of cue so I can do this.
Okay, so
remember the videos we got in the I gotta do it manually. It's not there.
Okay, so
Yeah, I got the version for Swift, and now
right after the swag bag, that's when I'm gonna put up Malik's photo.
Yep. Because the Malik stuff already staged up.
I put all the music in there. Maybe like 1, 2, and 3 in the order.
For Malik, is there like a folder called Malik? So Malik, yeah, right?
Ryan.
Okay, how was lunch? Good? Okay, what was the best sandwich, turkey or what? Okay, that's what I got, I'll eat it later. Okay, so now we have a special part in our program where we are going to do a raffle. We've already selected a name, and when I call your name, could you please come forward? We have two fabulous gifts. So, you can't have the basket, but you can have the ingredients of the basket. She has spoken. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what the names are. They were given to me by Ernst and Winnie. And the first winner is Alana. Is there Alana in the house? And our next winner is Jarrett. Oh, two at the same table. We will have drawings tomorrow as well. Is that table number 1 by chance? No, you're number 1. Number 3. That 3 is always good luck, right? Okay. Okay, so now we're into the next segment, and I'd like to get you perked up because I know that there's always that after lunch lag, and we've got some real good entertainment for you. So get ready. I'm going to introduce in a second Malik, who is a very young, talented musician and lyricist. He's also the founder of youth-serving organization called, okay, I hope I get this right, TG-TUB, or do I say TIG-DUB? How do I pronounce it? TIG-DUB, okay. A member of the 2121 ACES Design Challenge and a coach for the 2022 cohort. Thank you. TG-DUB, I can't even say it right, and IBJ share intergenerational recreation activities such as our recent Old School, New School competition. We look forward to so many more opportunities to work with you all, okay? To build bonds with young people. We need them, and occasionally, just maybe, one day you'll think about it and say, we need them too, even if they're over 40, right? Okay, great. So without further ado, are you ready? Is everybody ready? Come on up.
First and foremost, shout out to my team. I feel like we already beat the odds, you know? I grew up from a place where most of the men in my life are pimps, just being honest, drug dealers. They've been convicted. I never went to jail a day in my life. I got no felonies. I own a nonprofit, so I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that's certified. So, like I tell my team, Joe Biden knows about us, for sure. Go ahead, we can run through it. Passion and pain, huh? And they say without pain there ain't no games. I reach them through the music. Hey, just hold me tight. When I'm hurt, when I'm bad, I'ma hold you too. Just hold me tight. Let's do it. Hey, I remember the days, me and Keys be like YB and Dave. I remember the ways, feeling like we was right way to the grave. I remember our plays, ain't never had no stay. I remember no stability, no positivity. Graduating from school wasn't it for me. I remember losing keys, my family be cruel to me. How you my brother, you the one bruising me. How you my brother, you the one using me. I spread my wings like a bird in the sky. We can make it work, let's put the pride to the side. Big Mike, every time you call, you know I'ma slide. Big True, you a fool, remember black in our eyes. After you was 7, woke me up every morning, walked me to 11. Turned her back on the church when we found out about that reverend. And it hurt me so bad. Look, I don't know if I'ma make it home. Hurt you different when it's so close. Devil playing out up the pole. I don't know if I'ma make it home. Hurt you different when it's so close. Devil playing out up the pole. About anybody, you heard me? Look, hold me tight. Roll the dice, flow through the night. And never let go. Roll it once, I'ma roll it twice. You can keep it right. It's gonna take more. Hold me tight. Roll the dice, flow through the night. And never let go. Roll it once, I'ma roll it twice. You can keep it right. It's gonna take more. Show that. Hey, take your time, man. We gonna run through it. Let's do it. I appreciate everybody that's been here. You know, y'all been here before us. We learned the game from y'all. Not deliver it to the young people, so we all stay in tune. It's called 1080 understanding. 360, 360, 360, 1080. That's how we coming. Go ahead, big brother. My real steppers, you can check my resume. And just like the resume when you go to work. I got people on my resume. I got people that surround me, that keep me going, that hold me up when I can't hold myself. It takes a village to raise anybody. No matter how old you get, you still a child to somebody, straight up. I rock a real step, but you can. Hey, visible, right around, only two, it's me and you. Tell me if you love me the same way I love you. If you're my brother, then we gon' turn up Super Saiyan Goku. If you say you love me, be careful how you approach you. On our way to get the cake, I was down with like a slave. I was down, had no food up on my plate. We watched the hands. Now I really wanna ball hard, bread with no Kevin Gates. Now I really wanna ball hard, bread with no Kevin Gates. And I remember all the times we fell with no support. And I remember when they tried to lock me down before. And I remember getting that phone call, it was hella short. And I remember all the combos we had on that porch. And getting the money like who knew, SOT like vroom vroom, gotta be the one like Uno. Nightmares Freddy Krueger, teaching no rulers, like damn I really miss Stewart. This my resume. We fly like the birds and plants. Listen to the story.
This my resume. And for my biological family, the ones that the only father allowed me to grow up with. Since a kid, I never forget about y'all. Matthew, Michael, Juwan, Keys, Savannah, and Russell Jr. I love y'all the same way y'all love me. I'm better be going through some things, but I promise I'm gonna double back.
This my
I put my heart up on this song because I know y'all gonna listen to it. I can't always be this in the physical, the spiritual, I was sitting here to raise a roof when y'all felt it was relevant. And I'm not saying that I'm gonna be deep. I'm just saying we all got a purpose. And that's my purpose. You know, King David was a good person. The smallest in the village when he destroyed the biggest. Being that ever walked that village. A giant at his finest. With 3 stones, 3 swings. We're gonna be able to ball. And we're gonna ball the way we're supposed to. Everything's And as far as everybody else, all I got to say is just keep watching me, keep following my lead, but know that there's somebody greater than me that's in me. Somebody's gonna turn y'all onto the truth. I hope I'm able to give y'all way to the one that's really yours. And he goes by the Heavenly Father Most High, or whatever y'all.
We just need to talk to each other, really. You know, David was the smallest in the village, killed the biggest demon, biggest demonic, biggest anything you could imagine. He was the youngest. Everybody was afraid. We can do the next song though. It's unreleased music. Hey, any young people that want to come up with me for this last song, I feel like we owe it to the adults to show us what we rocking with. You know? Let's perform for the adults. Let's do it. Let's do it. We don't discriminate. This is our stage, you know? Let's go. Hey, when they see you hate, he see you love. It's supposed to happen that way. Just like the other younger gentleman that left. He said your problems are supposed to uplift you. They shape and mold us for the greatest. We destined to be great. Kings and gods is what we rock with. Let's do it, huh? They send me love, You send me love. Go. You got me the soul. Protect me with soul. My soul rest in peace. Let's go, huh? So many times you got my back, I scarred on you. My ties got a flag, I scarred on you. And you forgave me every time again. And you forgave me every time again. Boy, you forever patient. All the times I couldn't take it, all the times I couldn't fake it, all the nights I couldn't face it. If it's my time to rest in peace, then Father, take my soul. Spend many nights telling myself it's my time to blow. He kept on telling me, now right now, focus on your soul. I wouldn't listen, now I'm wrong for years, I thought we had. There used to be love, faded to rain. Let's go, huh? Hey, you brought me to the shore when I was drowning. You brought me to shore, you saved my life. Plenty time, huh? It's TV Love. IBJ too. Sean Worthy, you know what it is. Come on, hey. When we rescue, this how it sound. Everybody got a melody in their heart. You know how good it is when we make it to that promised land, huh? Hey. Forever I'm yours, and forever I'm yours. Yeah, that was, all that, We got time for one more done.
moved when I read his bio. I just met this gentleman today, but I had read his bio to prepare for this. And he's going to talk about breaking stigma, cycle, and stereotypes. And in his bio, there's something that really moved me, and I'd just like to share this in his own words. He says, "Now I'm on a journey to share my story and experiences with the world. In 2014, I was given the opportunity to speak at a leadership class. The response I received was amazing and changed my life. At first, I didn't follow my passion. When I discovered it, after a year of personal development and using the gift, I started to discover it wasn't only my passion, but my purpose. After taking time to develop a vision and brand, I started I Am Worthy and Associates. Now, as an entrepreneur, speaker, and full-time father, a single father at 28 years old. Or was it 29? Oh, you should take the 28. Okay. And speaker and full-time father, I'm building my brand. I'm worthy across the nation. I'm worthy. The brand is about empowerment, education, and help you to reach your maximum potential. Come on, Mr. Sean Worthy. I am worthy."
How's everybody doing? I need a little bit more energy. You got to do like that. That's what I'm talking about. So I want to say this. I do a lot of speaking. I'm blessed to be able to do what I do as far as being able to use my story and my testimony to inspire people, to teach people and all that. But the bigger thing that I want to say is that I've seen and I've had the experience to see some of the young people in this room, specifically talking about the young man that just performed, grow, and become who he is. And I just want to say, first and foremost, to the elders that were in this room, thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys for teaching us and guiding us with your guys' stories and the lessons that you guys have experienced throughout your lives. And I want to say for everybody in this room, thank you for being here and holding this space. So it was very, very intentional for me to come here. I actually asked to be here. I wanted to speak because I knew this was going to be a special place. I've spoken in national conferences and things like that, but the most important thing is for me to speak to my people. Yeah. So it's super important. And so how I wanted to some of my squad today, but I work at their school, and I worked there since 2017. So I have some young people that I brought with the high school right down the street that I work at. We got a little field trip and walked over here today. Where's my squad at? Give them a squad. For coming with me. I really appreciate you guys for getting out your comfort zone and trying something different today. I know it was a little long, but I hope you guys learned something from being here, because I know I did. So I'm going to get into what I'm talking about today, but I have one thing that I want to share that I was thinking about either doing this presentation or doing the one that I'm doing now, and I just want to share this message to begin with. This is one of my call to actions to you guys. I came up with this one day when I was driving down the street. My car pooped on me, on the side of the road, and I got out, I started cussing. I was kicking the tire, right? The one thing I don't do is I don't promote no negativity on social media. So I instantly hopped on social media and I got on live and I was walking down the street and I shut my butt up and I started talking nice to myself, I started speaking positive to myself. I said, look, you see my car broken down. I gotta take my son to school, I gotta do this and that, but I'm gonna make it. And I'm walking down the street, it's dark, you can barely see my dark self, right? But through that experience, I said something that was so foundational to my success today. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, but I didn't know what to do with it. Just like she said before, I had the opportunity to speak to some young people, I didn't even know what I was doing, right? But it came and manifested over time. And what manifested over time was this saying. I said, sometimes, man, you just gotta embrace it while you chase it. And then all the people on the line was like, embrace it while you chase it, hashtag. I said, oh, let me take that book. I turned off the line real quick. I said, no, we ain't gonna let nobody share this one. I think I got something. So I took that and I ran with it, but it took me a while. I wanted to be really genuine about what it meant to me, right? And what it meant to me was this. We all in this room have something in common. 3 things in common, right? In my whole philosophy of life, my motto, embrace it while you chase it. We all have adversity, right? We all have a journey. And my favorite, we all have a gift, right? And if we can embrace those 3 things while we chase it, we can live the most fulfilled life that we could ever imagine, right? And that's what my whole life has been about. It's been about embracing it while I chase it, right? And chasing too, it might not be running after something. It might be just the pursuit of what you're going after and what you're trying to accomplish, right? And like our elders said today, that don't never stop. So I'm always going to be embracing it while I chase it, right? So I wanted to share that with you, but I wanted to talk about something super important today that I just kept hearing over and over again. I'm so blessed to be able to be up here and after all the great people speaking, being able to end it and talk about breaking cycles, stigmas, and stereotypes. That's what I'm all about. You know what I'm saying? How many of y'all here, raise your hand, breaking cycles, stigmas, and stereotypes in your life? You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. And what I say to you is, yes, we have to. That's the people that broke those for us, right? We got to carry that torch. It's like the Olympic torch. What's the Olympic torch never do? It don't never go out. So what we do is we take the bad and the good and we throw that in the Olympic torch. And that we can burn it, right? But that's where that desire comes from. That pain, that passion, you got to turn it into something. It's not just there. We did not go through what we went through for no reason. And they didn't go through what they went through for no reason for us. So what we got to do is embrace it while we chase it. We got to come behind it and pick up that torch and carry it. And carry it proud, not just carry it, right? Actually have meaning behind what we're doing. Just don't be in spaces and places for no reason. Be there for intention. Be there for purpose, right? And so with me, growing up through my life, my dad smoked crack with my brothers and sisters at 5 years old in a circle like they were smoking weed, right? My dad was nothing but a manipulator. My dad has 8 kids that we know of, right? That's barely been in any one of their life. I didn't even know my dad. I had a picture of my dad when I was 2 years old, and it was just him from here down and me next to him. That's the only picture I ever had of my dad. My dad called me when I was 22 years old, talking about, it's your dad, person. I said some other words, but I ain't gonna say that. But when I said to him those, I was like, man, after 22 years, you're about to come, I'm looking in the backseat of my son. I'm a full custody father, self-appointed myself at one. 2 years after I got out of prison, for doing, I got convicted of selling drugs, right, which unfortunately is a stereotype in our community, and it's something that really does exist. But what I did was, I was able to get out, turn my life around, and do what my dad didn't do for me, which is be a father in my son's life. So when we talk about breaking cycles, which is, people told me all the time, like, bruh, like, this is my clothing brand, Worthy Hustle, right? Worthy Hustle. But the reason why they
they still telling me, man, they gonna let you wear that in no school. The teacher's asking me to buy a sweatshirt now. You know what I mean? That's that stigma of thinking just because I was somewhere and I experienced something, I'm not capable of being somewhere else. Please, right? And then also we gotta think about the cycles and the stereotypes that we have faced. Look at my hair. When I come in, it don't even matter whether it's my kids, whether it's in a community with a lot of white people, whatever. This hair gets looks. You feel what I'm saying? I be thinking I'm handsome, but I think it might be my hair. I don't know. But at the same time, I have to also understand that there's a lot of stereotypes that carry with that, right? I have stereotypes that carry with me from my past experiences of going to prison, right? And those things, and what it's like to be a black father, right? So I break those, I crush those. I do not allow anybody to place any type of limits on me whatsoever, right? And how do I do that? By understanding myself and what I want from my life, right? People was talking about that earlier. What do you want? I wanted to create an example of what fatherhood was because I didn't grow up with that. And I grew up with a lot of brothers that didn't grow up with an example of what fatherhood. So now when I walk into the room at the school, my young people get to see a father. I bring my son into the school meet. They get to see my son go fishing. They get to see me on Facebook doing all this stuff with my son. But that's bringing the cycle for somebody else, not just me, right? So I'm blessed to have this opportunity to be a leader in my community, to work with the young people. But I leave you guys to think about that. Think about the cycles, the stigmas, and the stereotypes that's in your life. Think about the things that's trying to hold you down, the chains that are already been on you before you was even born, right? And think about breaking those. Thinking about like what the man said earlier, it's all up here though, because I changed my whole perspective. I changed my whole perspective of who I was because I picked up books I read, because I started learning about not just life, but who I was, right? What is it like to be a young black man? Not what stereotypes say, but what is it really like, right? And I want to shout out to all these young people at this table that have been helping out and being a part of your community and stepping up and breaking those cycles and stigmas and stereotypes, right? Speak up because they don't get all the credit that y'all deserve. I work with amazing young people every single day, and they never get the credit that they deserve. You don't need that credit because y'all are our future. I believe in them. I swear I believe in them. And I know those adults can too. So man, do y'all thing, man, but do it in your way. Just like you did your song. Be for your culture. Represent your stuff, but just be for something. Be for something. That's it. That's all I'm saying, man. And I just gotta say this to all the young people out here that are trying to go in a different lane and do something different. Don't let the people hold you back. We had to have the first. We had to have the color barrier broke. We had to have these things happen. So I get very uncomfortable when I see young people knock other young people about breaking those cycles, stereotypes and stigmas, right? Instead of promoting the young man that could be the first person to go to high school or college, D1 to the league, instead you're walking out the front door and skipping school, right? We gotta stop, man. We gotta look at how we collectively play a role and influence in our community. And what that does, he can go to the league, he can change our community, he can have training camps and all this stuff for kids that we don't even got, and instead we're gonna allow him to do the opposite of that? Come on, man, we gotta think a lot sharper, and we gotta look at also the forces that are against us. We already got enough against us. Do you realize that people have died to get education? People have died. You know what I'm saying? I got goosebumps from hearing our elders talk because you don't really understand how much we got to hold. It's a heavy load. And that's why they say, I heard the man say, if you get tired, if you get drained from doing this work, it's not for you. And I say this all the time. It's in you, not on you. Right? It's in you. If it's in you, you're going to take it, you're going to carry it, you're going to do your thing. But if it's on you, it's going to fade. It rubs off after a while. You feel what I'm saying? So that's very important for you guys to understand. When you guys go in these spaces, do it with purpose. Do it with intentionality. And do it with the idea and thought that somebody came before you and sacrificed it. Even if they didn't get to the point that you are trying to get to, somebody else made an effort to get there. Right? There wouldn't be young black men in the Major League Baseball right now if it wasn't for Jackie Robinson. Right? Like we wouldn't see motivational speaking from young black men if we didn't see Martin Luther King and Malcolm and those brothers speak and really pour into us. So I just tell you guys, each of you guys have a gift in this room. Use that gift. Don't let anybody take you away from using that gift, and don't abuse it. Because I used to abuse mine. I'm blessed to be able to speak the way that I can. I'm blessed to be able to share my energy with people the way that I can. But I used to use it the wrong way. So now I take it into myself to use it in the right way and break those stigmas, cycles, and stereotypes from even my own perspective and what I placed on myself. So I challenge you guys to do that today. I see this young man doing it. I see his brother doing it. I see his squad holding him down. And I see him overcome obstacles, even from afar. Both of them, right? And now today they're out here leading. I don't know very many young people out here leading their people like they are. So thank you guys for breaking cycles. Today, I know we don't got very much time, but everybody, my last name is really worthy. That's my government. It's on my ID. It's not for a stage show or nothing like that, right? But that was something that was given to me, right? And this ain't even my slave name. My daddy changed my last name, right? My last name really is Worthy, but my dad's last name was Worthins. So he changed it. I don't know what happened. That's a whole different story. But I was blessed because guess what? I get to walk in who I am, right? So Worthy is real. But I just say everybody in this world. I started my youth development organization called I Am Worthy because I believe that every person is worthy. When I won full custody of my son, walked out and self-appointed myself, that broke the chains. And when it broke the chains, that's when I came out. Hey, I was on the Hilltop coming out of here. I came out the courtroom like, I said, I'm a father. I'm a full custody father. You want to help me, baby, that me? And I tell you right now, every young man and young woman in this room, if you can do that, I promise you, your life will be the best life. Can't nobody take away being a father. My daddy couldn't do that.
Told you. Amazing. Thank you so much. Chase it while you embrace it. That's what I'm going to remember from now on. So, last but not least, this is something that I've been looking forward to as a young ballerina that never made it. But I will say that this is such an exciting time because we have a young lady, solo ballerina, African American, known as the Tiny Ballerina, who has been selected by Pacific Northwest Ballet, I'm very familiar with, and she studied in the Ballachine, structure, which is very difficult. And I can see her someday with New York City Ballet. And I mean that. So I'm really thrilled to introduce, let me tell you just a couple little things. She's going to do her solo ballet from the movie Harriet. The name of the piece is Stand Up, choreographed by Vania Bina, I hope I said that correctly. And Diana Starr Robinson is the tiny ballerina from Tacoma, and she's been dancing since she was 2. So that's just exciting. So I'd like to have her come forward and show us her craft. And we're so excited. mention that she is one of another African American ballerina, and they made history because they were selected to play in the Nutcracker, which is unusual for African Americans. Thank you so much, Portia, her mother, because I know what it takes to be a ballet mom. So, not me, but my mom. So, it takes a lot of work from the family. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this brings me to the end of my role. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody. And it was an honor to be here and to, be your MC for the better half of the day. I'm tired. No. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope I see most of you tomorrow because it's really worthwhile to see all this rich talent of these young people and how we're really bringing that intergenerational connection. We're trying to bind that distance, and we're doing it through IBJ and the vision of, there she is, Carol. So I would like to turn this over to her as she's waving. Come on up. Come on up.
If I give you my code, you can give it back. Okay. Thank you, Wanda. Wasn't she fabulous? It was the Day of Queens, the former Afro Queen and the Daffodil Queen. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Look it up. I really appreciated all of the talent today. I've been in tears most of the day. And part of it is about Monique and RJ and Brandon and Keys and Kumari and Kalia and Killer K. Michaela, right? Part of it is about what this work represents, the hope that they represent, the squad that came from Washington with you, Sean. It's the reason why IBJ has this ACES Young Adult Leadership Development Program. It's because we already know how beautiful our young people are. And so our job is to amplify what they already do. That's what we've decided. That's what the ACES program will be about, amplifying what they already do. So if you want to participate in this work, you can donate your time, your talent, or your treasure, whatever is easiest for you to do. There is an envelope in your packets. How many of you got a packet today? Raise up your packet, like a church. Come on in. Raise up, yeah, you know what's coming. Raise your packet up, right? You should have received a small envelope. Now look. Arthur Watkins and I were up till 5 a.m. trying to get those envelopes printed. And they kind of looked like they were printed at 5 a.m. So just give us grace because, hey, we did our best. But you can use your phone, you can do PayPal, Cash App, whatever, old school check, whatever, because our young children are at risk of not having their true worth seen. They're not at risk in the sense of how the world uses it. They're at risk of not having their true worth seen. You've got a glimpse into the beautiful value they bring. Their gifts and their talents were on display just a little bit today, but there's so much wealth inside those young, brilliant minds. And I want to see it. I'm willing to invest my time, my energy, and my treasure in seeing what else they can do. They never disappoint. Now, the only day I was disappointed is when the old school beat the new school at home. That was the only day. room right now, if you want to connect up to this, it's a really super simple little thing on our website. It's called the EPA Pledge. The EPA symbol is just the symbol of justice in an ancient African Adinkra language. So everything, and she's getting to it. Where is it, Tia? It's
at the top.
There it is. Those two interlocking chains that you see in the IBJ's fist, it's in our fist, it's in our Freedom Summer Symposium. That's the symbol of justice. It comes out of West Africa. So whenever you see those interlocking diamonds, those represent chains, and our responsibility, our mission, is to set the captives free. That's what we do. We do liberation work, and then we turn on a light and amplify the beauty that arises out of liberation. I do want to stop now and just make sure you know, tomorrow we will not be in this beautiful room. It worked out great today, but tomorrow the young people will be on display all day. Anjanae Slaughter is going to be the MC. Stand up, where's she at? Come on, beautiful me. Come on, me at 25. That was me at 25. Okay? I really did look that good at 25. I have pictures to prove it. So Anjanae will be in charge tomorrow. The young people will be coming to tell us their ideas. You saw that panel this morning with our elders. Tomorrow the panels are all young people doing their thing, presenting their update to the blueprint that you heard about today. I do want to thank Senator Rosa Franklin and her beautiful daughter Sarah. So kind did make it, carve a little time out of his busy schedule to be here. James L. Walton, Obi. That's his black and white photograph when he was sporting his fro and stirring things up politically here in Tacoma and Pierce County. He is the very first African-American city manager in Tacoma, probably in the state of Washington, made if he would like to have a few words, and he declined, but we would love it if he would. I'm not worthy. Thank you. James L. Walton.
I guess I can still change my mind, so. But after walking in this room and seeing all this energy and fresh faces, I changed my mind. I just wanted to say I wish I could have been here sooner, but I'm glad I was able to make it and see all the young people here, but maybe more importantly, to see the legacy people here as well, working with the young people, because the fight for freedom continues. It's not over. We need to have you to step up and keep the fight going. I am so blessed to have been relocated to this space. That is just God's doing. Started in Texas, never really heard of the state of Washington, but I was planted here. And I hope that I was able to grow and contribute here. And I hope that I continue to benefit from the leadership that will come from African American young people yourselves, because that is certainly needed. And I congratulate Carol on all her hard work and just her idea of trying to keep this fight for freedom going forward. And I compliment her for that. And then lastly, Senator Franklin, I can't remember when I first met her, but it seemed to me that she was always over my shoulder. Everywhere I looked, she seemed to have been there. And then you look ahead, especially to the people in the political arena, and there she was, just shining like a bright star, even in the darkest of situations. And she has been an inspiration to me and a great contributor to this community. So thank you so much for letting me have a few words, change my mind, because I got the spirit as soon as I came into this room.
Some of you may know I spent just a little bit of my career on television, and I always had this phrase, it gets gooder and gooder. And I know that's not proper grammar, but tomorrow, that's right. It is in Geechee culture, it's proper. Tomorrow it will get gooder and gooder, because the young people are going to blow your mind with what they've come up with tomorrow. So here's what I want you to repeat after me. Tomorrow I will be in Xavier Hall. Tomorrow I will be in Xavier Hall. Xavier. You gotta say it like that. Xavier. It's spelled Xavier, right? But it's Xavier. All right, so don't come here, go to Xavier. It is a lecture hall, so it'll be like you're back in college. For those of you who have not been in college for a while, it'll be like you're back in your college lecture hall. Go there, and tomorrow, I promise you won't be disappointed. I do one final thing before we let you go and kind of meet and greet each other for these last few minutes. I have to thank the hardest working technical team and hospitality
Yeah.